It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
And we're going to welcome back to the program. We've got Fort Smith attorney Joey McCutchen is on the line. Joey, how are you, sir? Joey, can you hear me?
Morning, Paul. Hey, I can hear you now.
All right, great. Hey, and you're actually on the road right now, right?
I am, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, be safe in talking to us. The reason I wanted to have you on is because...
I pulled over.
Okay, you pulled over. Okay, great.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to have you on is because I have interviewed, I think, at least two people on the issue that Fort Smith's going through right now, which is a proposed tax increase that's going to fund the U.S. Marshals Museum. And originally, this was something that was only going to be a privately funded venture, but now they're looking to the public, they're looking to the people, taxing them more to try to build this building and everything else. And first off, let's just talk about your thoughts on that, and then I want to get to the idea of debating the issue. But what are your thoughts on where this issue is currently?
Well, Paul, we've got to be fiscally responsible. I mean, we're seeing it across this state. If you can't afford something, then you don't build it, and that's the problem here. Fort Smith has several white elephants. We've talked about the River Valley Sports Complex fiasco that now the citizens are saddled with. This is just another irresponsible endeavor. And I'm fine with the Marshals Museum. I support the Marshals Museum, but I don't think this ought to be foisted on the taxpayers to pay for. Only in government would you get something like this, where they've raised $35 million or so. And again, $8 million has already come from the state taxpayers. Now they've created this entity called the Public Facilities Board. I mean, this is amazing. They're going it's going to be composed of citizens, and the citizens, these 5 citizens would now buy and own the museum building and grounds. Hello, does that not raise red flags? They will have no responsibility. When this project fails, who do you think is going to pick up the tab? Mm-hmm. We, the taxpayers.
We've also had some talk about who benefits from a scheme like this. And a lot of people have told me that it's going to be, people who own the real estate surrounding the museum. Is that right?
Absolutely. And, last night there was a meeting of the downtown players. They're going to reap the benefit. They should pay for it. Why put this on taxpayers? Don't forget that Fort Smith just passed a huge millage increase. I wonder if these same players why didn't they bring up this subject when they were trying to pass their millage increase? And I bet they're not also talking about what's getting ready to happen to the taxpayers of Fort Smith. They're going to they'll be asking for another tax to fund the convention center. You see, the city of Fort Smith spends $700,000 a year to $1 million funding a white elephant called the Fort Smith Convention Center that we can't pay for. Wow. This is just going to be another white elephant. They say this is a temporary tax. Come on, we know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. They'll let time pass, and they'll be asking for another increase in our taxes when all the current players are gone, and they'll say, "Oh, well, we weren't involved in that. This project's too big to fail." We've heard that before, haven't we, Paul?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and, we're seeing that right now at the state level. You had a 0.5-cent sales tax increase, pay for roads that was set to expire in 2022, and looks like they're going to refer it back to the people to maintain that. So they don't want it to sunset now that it's going to, according to the statute. So we're talking with Fort Smith attorney Joey McCutchen. Now, tell us a little bit about the community here in Fort Smith. How do they feel about it? And has there been any attempt to have a public forum to discuss whether or not the citizens or whether or not it would be a good thing to increase the taxes on the people of Fort Smith?
Well, what I'm hearing from everyday citizens is that they're paying $300 a month for utilities, and that's another white elephant. Fort Smith city government through irresponsibility. We have an EPA mandate, and they've increased utility rates. This is a terrible time to try to foist this upon the citizens of Fort Smith. Yeah, we've had several public forums. The opponents have had a public forum, and we'll have more. The other side has had public forums, but I challenged them to a debate, and immediately they, oh, we can't debate. We don't want a one-on-one debate. But what we will agree to, and they put this in the form of a letter, we propose a moderated panel with 3 knowledgeable people on each side, and questions should be permitted, public input allowed. Then after that, they start backtracking, and then they send me an email stating that we don't want the public to be present at that meeting. You know, you're just a bunch of rowdy folks, and you just can't control yourself, and it just wouldn't be a civil type of, and we don't want to debate. I'm like, okay, well, we will never agree that the public will not be present in that room. We will never agree to that. So promptly, through this charade, after back and forth, they declined to, quote, debate or have a panel discussion with a moderator. I agreed, and we agreed to every term except that the public would not be there. I mean, what are they trying to hide? Why wouldn't they want the public to be present in the room? They wanted some kind of Facebook Live, which is fine. Let's do it Facebook Live, but let's also have the public who is going to be financing this museum.
You know, that's so frustrating when people are wanting the taxpayer money, and it's almost like they want to game it out ahead of time. They want to be able to manipulate it to where they can script it out, and they have a script. There's not going to be any surprises. There's not going to be any question. I think some of that is because we have some leaders, honestly, who get into positions of power and they're afraid, like their biggest nightmare is that they're going to get a question and be made to look foolish or something like that. You know, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, transparency is key. If you're gonna, increase taxes, let's do it in a transparent way. Now, the fact is, this is a special election, Joey, right? So already transparency, as far as I'm concerned, is thrown out the window, because if it's in a general election, more people would show up and vote, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to say this. I have a lot of respect for the folks working for the Marshals Museum. But look, they've made a lot. Haven't done that. I mean, we knew they were going to be asking for general improvement fund. You know, we knew they were going to the slush fund. That was taught. But what they didn't say is that they were going to come to local taxpayers. It's another. Why in the world are we having another special election? I mean, why are we giving preference to the Marshals Museum? Oh, they say, well, we'll pay for the special election. Well, doesn't that set a pretty bad precedent, Paul? What if I come? Do you think, or some John Q. Public comes? Do you think they're going to allow? Hey, I want to have a special election to fund my special pet project. They're opening up a can of worms here, and frankly, they've gone around our Constitution to do this. They've created this Public Facilities Board, which has no accountability to anyone. They've asked in a special way. This thing's been going on for 12 years now. There is a plan B.
Yeah. If
you don't have enough money to build a Taj Mahal, then you downsize. Originally, they were saying this is going to be a $20 million project, 30,000 square foot. Now it's $50 million. If I'm building a house and I can't afford a big old house, then guess what? I don't start building the house, number one, until I have the money to pay for it. That's another issue here.
That's a good point. Joey McCutchen, tell us when the special election is for this tax increase for Fort Smith.
The special election is March 12th. Early voting, I believe, starts March 5th. Paul, I know that the Marshals Museum folks are listening to this call right now. I want to ask them and challenge them to reconsider their refusal to allow the public to attend a forum moderated by Michael Tilley. Michael Tilley has agreed to moderate this. Michael's going to control the questioning from the public. The public deserves this. And if they don't do this, this thing ought to go down in flames. This is just a betrayal of the public trust. They need to reconsider whatever the power players downtown are telling them, that, they're throwing out a bunch of red herrings. So I'm challenging them right now to reconsider their declining to have a public discussion where people are in the same room answering tough questions about this white elephant.
I think that's the obvious thing to do. And Joey McCutchen, I appreciate you coming on and once again shedding light on this potential tax increase for Fort Smith. We appreciate it, sir. Be safe in your travels.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
Have a good day.
Yes, sir. Anytime.